The Nationals Party and the New South Wales Minerals Council are in arms calling for a review of how the Independent Planning Commission approves mines so that the impacts of carbon emissions overseas is not considered. They want to see the IPC overhauled to ensure that New South Wales' reputation as a top mining state isn't jeopardised by overhauling the IPC's legislation that saw the Bylong mine rejected related to Scope 3 emissions that would eventually result once the coal was burned overseas. Michael Johnson, the Upper Hunter MP for the Nationals, thinks mining companies should not be held responsible for foreign coal emissions.
But of course, one of the other things, which is one of the key aspects of it, is that there is such a thing as Scope 3 emissions. So which basically means that anything that comes out of Australia we are responsible for emissions in other countries. And I'm going to put another angle on this. We do a lot of wine exports, for example. So let's say we exported wine to a particular country, someone bought a bottle of wine, got too drunk, had an accident, hurt themselves, whatever the case may be. And are we then responsible as a country for someone drinking too much and having an accident and hurting themselves? Because it's the same concept with this particular mine or any other mine.
Michael Johnson argues we need to make changes to how the IPC approves mines.
And so we are looking at changes to the legislation to make it clearer for assessments around that particular aspect. And, if we don't do something like that, then Australia, and indeed New South Wales, will be a place that is considered by international investors as a place of high sovereign risk, which means that we won't get international investment. And we know from anecdotal evidence that that's already happening. We are getting corporations and governments around the world saying New South Wales is too risky to invest in. There's no certainty around the planning process. We don't know. We can waste hundreds of millions of dollars, as KEPCO has, and still not get a result despite being led on all the way. And that's an unacceptable situation.
Georgina Woods, a spokesman from Lock the Gate, says the response from the State Government and Minerals Council is unwarranted.
It's a sorry pattern in New South Wales that any time a community prevails over a coal mining proposal, the New South Wales Government, whoever is in power, tends to step in and change the law at the insistence of the mining industry. So since the Bylong mine was rejected, the New South Wales Minerals Council has been running a tantrum campaign to try and wrest control of the planning decisions away from the Independent Planning Commission and curtail their ability to say no to mines that are not in the public interest. The New South Wales Government, appears to be entertaining the idea that they will accede to the demands of the New South Wales Minerals Council. They haven't done so yet, and we're hopeful that, the public interest can prevail because really there are parts of the state that are not appropriate for mines, and, we think generally that the public and the community would agree with that. The Minerals Council has launched a, multi-million-dollar ad campaign. They have maligned the reputation and the independence and the credibility of the Planning Commission and the commissioners who made the decision. They have got multiple stories in the Daily Telegraph screaming about the decision, misrepresenting the Planning Commission, misrepresenting the decision that they made, misrepresenting the economic consequences of the mine. This tends to be the way the Minerals Council conducts itself in public discourse in Australia.
Jeremy Moss, a political philosopher at the University of New South Wales, says the Nationals are out of step with what the wider state community is calling for.
Well, look, I think the Nationals are really a long way out of date in calling for that to happen. The Planning Committee recommending against the Bylong coal mine was in fact a very positive decision. And I think the sooner the Nationals start recognising that coal is a fuel of the past, not the future, then they'll do a better job of representing their members' interests than simply opposing every decision that opposes coal. So I think their decision is well out of step with community attitudes towards coal and indeed the realities of climate change, which demand that we cease using coal in the shortest possible time.
Bylong Valley sheep farmer Philip Kennedy thinks it's contradictory the Nationals want to overhaul the IPC.
Hopefully it won't jeopardise the decision made by the IPC 3 weeks ago. Whether they change the rules yet again, politicians are renowned for their own self-agenda. The IPC was implemented a few years ago, after the corruption involved in the Mount Penny mine a little bit further down, within a few k's of the current proposal. There was corruption involved, land deals, profiteering, so an independent authority had to come in and override that, called the IPC. The Nationals and the Liberals wanted it. Now they get a decision against them by the IPC, they want to disband it. They're hypocrites.